Hey, this is Max with Mind Your Mind, and I'm here with...
Paige Lawson.
Throughout high school, you struggled with anxiety. Can you tell us what that experience was like for you?
It was a very difficult experience. I think that struggling with, I guess, what people call an invisible disability in high school can be kind of daunting because you don't really know how to tell your peers about it, and it's not something that they can visibly see is wrong with you. So it was definitely a big struggle for me, and getting staff and students to understand, how to accommodate that and give me resources was just impossible at times. And I think it's really important that awareness gets out there for mental health because there's a lot of students that are dealing with anxiety in high school, and it's just really not talked about.
With that invisible sort of thing, did you ever feel judged or discriminated against for having anxiety? And do you feel you gained anything from these experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was actually one of the hardest things that I dealt with, was wondering what people were thinking about me and if they were judging me. And I always say I wish that I could go back now and just stand up in front of my class and say, "Hi, I'm Paige, I have an anxiety disorder," and, that's that. Because I just want to get it out there. I think I spent more time worrying about what they were thinking, and I think that was actually causing most of my anxiety. So, I think that was a really difficult time.
Oftentimes, people who are dealing with enormous stresses or battling mental health issues may use unhealthy methods to cope, such as self-medicating with drugs or alcohol. Was that ever an option for you?
No, not for myself. And I consider myself to be very lucky that that's not a path that I went down. I kind of consider myself, I guess, a best case scenario, and in that sense that I had, amazing family support, amazing doctors, I had all of the resources and outlets externally outside of school that I could ever need. And I think that there's a lot of students that don't have those supports, and maybe that's why they lean towards, substance abuse or other alternatives that aren't the healthiest methods. And, I feel very fortunate that that's not something that I had to do.
What are some of the coping methods you use now?
Typical things like deep breathing is actually something that's really significant in helping you to feel better. I still use that all the time. Exercise is another huge one. If my body isn't getting all of that anxious stress out, then it's going to find other ways to get out in my life. Just talking about it and trying to actually understand what my boundaries are and saying, this is something that's really hard for me and I can't do it, and maybe just accepting that until I can find a way that I can cope and get through it.
What would you say to someone who is struggling with anxiety right now? Someone who's having a hard time coping with school and maybe thinking of quitting or isn't coping well?
I just say stick with it. I think that, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that it's really hard for a lot of students to believe that. They think, this is it, this is going to be forever. And I definitely had moments where I thought that it was something that I would deal with for the rest of my life. And while it is something that I'm probably going to deal with in aspects for the rest of my life, it doesn't have to become me. It doesn't have to be all that I am. I just realized that it's a small part of me, and that I can learn to control it and still do the things that I love.
Here at Mind Your Mind, we try to help young people find ways to help a friend who's in need, and openly, because they may feel judged or ridiculed or stereotyped. Where did you find the courage to speak about your experience, and why was it important to you?
I think that it was really important for me to kind of speak about it because when I was in high school, I can honestly say there wasn't one person that I knew that said I either struggle from a mental health disorder or I know someone that does. And that was a pretty big deal to me. I thought, there's supposedly 1 in 3 people our age that's suffering, but nobody's talking about it. And so I kind of said, as soon as I graduate high school, before I move on, I need to make a point to go out there and make that message. Because, I have the skills and I have the talents to go out there and do public speaking. And, I shouldn't hinder that. I shouldn't hide that. I should go out there and, get that really important message across.
It's like you said, if you could go back, you would stand up and tell everyone, and then maybe other people would do it, and everyone would kind of group together and understand one another.
Absolutely.
What was it like to not only be nominated, but also win a spot in Youth in Motion Top 20 Under 20 last year? What did people say to you about it?
That was a really exciting moment for me. I can't believe it's been a whole year already. I'm considered alumni now, which is kind of surreal. It was a really rewarding experience, and I honestly didn't think that I was ever going to be chosen for it. You don't go into something like this hoping to be recognized for your work, but it's really nice. It just helped get my message that much further out. Now it's kind of a national message. It helped me to really get my project resources and awareness out there. And I think that, everyone was just really supportive and excited to see that, my initiative was successful and that people really, wanted to see it go further.
It's really good to have your work validated sometimes. Can you expand on what the DREAM program is?
Yeah, absolutely. It stands for Direct Resources to Education Alternatives and Mental Health. And basically what we do is we go into high schools and we talk about mental health awarenesses, resources for students, and most importantly that mental illness is something that exists and mental health exists for all. It's really, if I go in there with one message, just to go in there and get the point across that this is something that's real, it's happening, and that people are dealing with. So, it's been a really exciting project. We're constantly expanding with new community partners and bringing in other youth to share their testimonials.
If you had $100 to buy a gift for Justin Bieber, what would it be?
Well, there was a time where I would have said a haircut, but it seems like he's kind of sorted that out in recent months. So I'm not really sure. I think I'd have to think about that one.
That's a good one. I like haircut. I like that one. And any words to live by?
This is a tough one.
I put you on the spot.
Is like keep on trucking on still said by people? Is that a saying? Just keep on going, push through. Like I said, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I think if you keep going, that you'll get to a good place.
All right, keep on trucking. Wise words. All right, thank you very much.